So, yes. Silly Hilly here on Halloween. We're jumping to the incident at Ardani footage. So let's go to the incident at Ardani. We're going to do the meeting room scene and the bridge scene, similar to the other one, because then we can go on to the other sets, which are more elaborate. So we're going to Incident at Ardani, Part 1, and going to the meeting room scene. And that's what we're doing. This is a Starship Chimera. The Chimera. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Yeah. Let's just go there. Start with it. Yeah, we will not let the camera run if something needs to be set up. We'll stop it. A couple of quick notes. Having seen our, this is beginning the making of for the next segment, the finale, season finale, two-parter season finale, Incident at Ardani 1 and 2. Previous 2 episodes, awesome. The last two, they're 2 hours for the Picard retrospective called Lucky Clerks. And that was 2 hours. That's in 2020 and 2021 November. So during post-production, another relative died, cousin Jim Brown. Older guy that used to live in Texas, moved up to Sacramento, so we put a dedication in the credits. He was not a voice actor in any of the stories or anything like that. He was in on location, Valley Stories mainly. On it twice, 2 different visits. Anyway, so even though that thing's going on in the distance, the early negotiations have begun. Was announced at the church group, but the group's not really involved too much. The two members of the church group from the original cast was announced officially. That's it. There would be a second season of Starship Locations, Strange Worlds. There would be a second season, and we've been renewed. There's going to be another season in 2022. We'll likely begin production in December on the second season. So 2022, early 2022, around the same time as Strange New Worlds, Star Trek. And actually around the same time as Discovery, season 4. And then Strange New Worlds is after that. Or maybe it's Picard, season 2. That's around. What's bizarre here is that Silly Kelly cast... we're looking over the Fallen One stories, the loosely used Jason Polavito blogs that became just the blogging parts, which became, like this season was, elements of the finale here that we're doing, this Strange Worlds finale. Incident at Ardani is some of the Colavito stories that were changed to Viticola, and it's just the comments and the different comment arguments they had on the day that he decided in 2020 to put some restraints on his blog for once. So it's blog stories that were never done as an episode. That's what the next episode is about. It's about that and about Lower Decks season 1 thrown in there a little bit. And it's a 2-parter, probably another 2 hours. And that's the season finale. They will be back to back like this latest one that just came out. Today's Sunday, the 14th of November. I expect them to come out by the 30th, my birthday. But maybe it might be December 1st. We don't know. We'll see. Might be a little after that. But it will come out this year, the finale. And then there will be on to part 2, which is sort of a prequel to the other stuff, in a sense. There will be a storybook of this first season. But the second season will not have a storybook because it already has one. Kelly and Cowpoke and them were jokingly commissioning going on. Other parts of my media. Yeah, it's just me. Okay, I was going on about the thing. And going like, those Fallen One stories, the last 2 novels, the Fallen Ones, which was, that might take a month to put the script for. But the idea is that just the blogging parts of the ancient aliens thing and giants and creatures and nepotisma and all that, showing sort of a prequel to those other 2 stories, but you don't have to read them, and they won't be reprinted again as a 3rd novel. That would be silly. another novel in that same universe with the same blog information would be silly. So season 2 will not be a novel because it already exists as a novel. It already exists as the Fallen Ones and as Maelstrom, the Maelstrom fleet. So there's no reason to do it again. But as a script, it would be similar to all Transformers much, in that we already have the blog scripts for another season. Why not just do some of those first, and then if there's something new and exciting comes up next year, we do that as well in season 2. So yeah, let's do that. So I was looking these over. Yeah, we could totally do that. Yeah, with the same cast and crew from last season, we're on an adventure to the planet from the Fallen Ones, because we're concentrating on and what happened in the Fallen Ones story is that it was the distant future and all the events in the previous past and the COVID and the alien virus and all that had led to the future that was encountered in Discotheque. So that at the end of the story, they basically prevent that timeline from happening. They fix it so the Nepotisya planet has a different past. And that past evolved into the Starcrackers one, which is just kind of a retelling of the same thing, but in 2560. So it's a retelling of the same events in another timeline. What happened if the events at the end of the Space Plague went to another course, and the one that was the 2390s ended in 2560, the one in the 2399, 2400 ended in the distant future with the Discovery people. And both of those were circumvented by the butterfly effect, by the story at the end of the story. You get to the end of those two novels, it was a Q-like thing, silly thing going on. And Cottle's death in the story, or the resurrection, and the ship's discovery, resurrection, reset the butterfly effect, putting them all back where they started. Nepotismian planet, and the whole planet hasn't started yet to build up the story about Viticola and his ancient aliens logs. It hasn't started yet. This story would be an attempt to say, okay, well, that's a different timeline, obviously. And in the Cillian timeline, in Strange Worlds, this is where it begins. Go to Nepotisya planet and have a couple episodes dealing with how that started. That's actually an interesting hook. It's like, not that other stuff off in the future 700 years later, but rather, how did it start? How did it start? These are the blogs that inspired this story. How does that start? Kind of started in the first season here with these other stories hinting at this. Kind of started there. But things have already changed. The Monarch ship is destroyed in the beginning of the finale. Or you don't need to know. It's not their main ship. It's the ship from the other stories. You don't need to know, other than it doesn't give away anything. But Holovito's ship is trashed and not able to go into the future. So the timeline has changed. So we have no idea how it begins or how it's going to go. So then they go to this planet. And there's the opportunity to put the blogs in there. Of course, not his actual writings, but rather people commenting about his writings. Because we can't use his actual writings. They said, don't do that. But the comments, that's fine. These are the people arguing about the Ancient Aliens show. That's fine. Reviewing the show. Ripping it. And that's kind of been a theme. So, doing this. Yeah. And that's kind of what we've been doing this season. A cerebral Star Trek parody that isn't about space battles and shooting and blowing up things and stuff, but rather characters having argumentation class on planets, discussing the nature of television and writing and script writing and stuff. It's a really bizarre idea, but yeah, we have plastic figures and can't physically show them fighting each other in space. It doesn't work. Yes. Another epic idea was, of course, Star Trek meets the Transformers. They haven't worked that out yet, but it could happen. The scale's all weird. So, anyway, so that was my thus far. The next exciting episode of Starship, Stranger Worlds. It's very preliminary. There could be a second season. It's very preliminary. The second season would be about this blog in its origins, not where the blog started, but where this weird planet idea started in 2020 and all that. Yeah, so about over a year ago. And that's why you don't need a storybook for it, because you already have one. It's the same information. We don't need more of that information. Yeah, it would be silly. Let's do a third one where it's 2403. Yeah, it's like the third prequel and it's the same dialogue. No. So book one is book one. And yeah, this is something else. So, yeah. This, like the All Transformers mush, wouldn't need to be copied again and made into a storybook, because you wouldn't need that. It already exists. It's a thing that exists. There's no reason to do it twice. Also, there's a Reddit version of the blogs. And there's a WordPress version of the blogs. There's a bunch of versions of the blogs. So if you want to read them. Also, the people they're spoofing, we don't want to anger them. So the names have been changed. Yeah. Walter and Pulitzer, Scott Walter, Hunton Pulitzer, and Andy White, and those guys are not directly referenced. Neither is Jason Colavito, for that matter. They changed the name to Viticola, and he rarely has anything to say. It's mainly the other people around him, and you get to see some more TMS, Marshall Sportiest people. Were hinted at in the first season. Get to see more of them, and as well as some others. We have to make an action figure of each. Now, we get to see Ryan Beld and Chica. Excellent. We get to see. It could be fun. We get to see Saltine and Tomat as well as action figures. So that'll be interesting to see that. They're based on somebody else. We can't say who they're. Other people get there. Yeah. And it would feature the Great Grave Robbery Debacle, which was a huge, long, like days-long discussion from a guy named, I think it was Walter and somebody else, these Ancient Aliens guys, Ancient Earth guys, talking about grave robbing, trying to pretend like they were being defamed, even though they weren't. They weren't being defamed by this other blog. I had nothing to do with it. I chimed in as Cal at one point and said, well, grave robbing's bad, that's about it. I didn't know. That's all I said. Also, they thought it was somebody else. Well, Silly Kelly here, and on the set of the finale, series finale, Incident at Ardani. Ardani is the fictional planet of the valley in the Riker episode with the Nepotismo planet. The two planets of which were visited during the books, Sicilian books, and in that one, they go to the Nepotismo. It's supposed to be Riker's planet. That's been converted into an amusement park, theme park, sanctuary for synths, holograms, and other things. That eventually evolves into to be obsessed with television and shows and things like that, and the Vita Cola blogs and stuff like that, and Ancient Aliens and Scott Walter and Hutton Pulitzer and Andy White, people like that, and becomes all obsessed with that stuff. Ancient Aliens, mainly, the Nova Scotian Sword Island place, yeah, that place too, among other things. Pumapunku too. Other things like that. And that planet is not this planet. So to clarify that they have landed here on Arcadia, or they landed on the planet from Star Trek Picard, on Drumelia, but here in Silly Trek it's called Arcadia. Instead of Coppelius Station, it's called Coppola Station. But it's a spoof. So this is not not necessarily the factory floor from which the Nepotismo will later be settled on the other planet. So it's canon. So if you go on to season 2 and it starts on this planet, it's a completely different planet. So you can start over. So they start over. So it's a different planet. It's not the same planet. So yeah, the blogs start on this planet, this Capella planet. That's where they start. But it probably actually started on Key Draconis and Keptera, or even Cillian Earth before that, and Flodai and TV planets. Because Key Draconis and Keptera are the TV planets of Coddle that were destroyed by the Cillians in the 80s and the 1980s, corresponding to 2360s, by the children who were given Q powers, and their colonists were spread all over the galaxy. These TV planets became obsessed with television, and so this season was all exploring this stuff. He was obsessed with television. That's what's going on. Is the bluegills has died into that because the Q Junior and Critical Vitriol, who was an overlord, they got together and they brought them back from obscurity and the TV shows and stuff with them because they didn't like the Awesome Channel and they didn't like Marshall Sportiest, and they infested the first Bright House station, not the second one from the books. The books it's Bright House 2. Bright House 1, and we still don't know where that is. Just saying it floats around. It moves. So we don't know where it is. But it's probably somewhere between Flodai and the Tribble homeworld. Somewhere in there. Near Klingon space, near the edge of old Romulan neutral zone. That's probably where it is. Somewhere around there. Could be in orbit of Flodai, but I think Bright House 2 is closer to Flodai, so it's probably not. Actually, Bright House 2 is probably far out, isn't it? Maybe? No, maybe it's not. Bright House 2 is probably Flodai. Probably. I don't know specifically where that is. So, yeah. Anyway, you have Deep Space Nine, which in this version is called Deep Space 4. and you have other things. But in this version, it's more... We're using some of the Star Trek names, but as parody. We're making fun of them. So it's fun. So the premise of Season 2, if we do Season 2... would be that they show the origins of how the TV planet resettled colony / droid planet resettled colony would happen on one of the planets. It could be nepotism. It could be Riker's planet. That's where it starts, but it probably isn't. Just to make it different. So this timeline is different from the Discovery timeline, and. Just so we don't need to deal with that, because it's easier to not shoehorn something in like that that's goofy and just say, well, it's what we're gonna do. We don't have to make it that it's sort of like how the Misfit Toys planet in Chimera the movie was not technically the amusement park planet from the original Star Trek. It was the factory floor. Ooh, so it's kind of like that here. Go to the factory floor. And maybe it is supposed to be dreamless, but probably not. And this is, so this episode will not really answer that. It'll just kind of hint at it. That maybe this is one of the places where they got some of the droids, basically. Maybe this is a place where they got some of the synths and some of the parts, and the TV planet people came in later. This is where that started, and the mind control devices. Threw in the thought makers, the Ferengi thought makers, and then they're just using psionic weapons on this planet. So it's a little more advanced than the thought makers, because they have the little tool that does the same thing. They have thoughts creating reality, which is very Jung Swan, very Marshall Sportist, and that's what Silly Trek is kind of about in some ways. It's the whole Marshall Sports TMS backstory was trying to stop the Xers, not the Xers, but trying to stop the COLs taking over against the Xers in the story. That didn't actually, there was no actual real trial, there was no actual real thing like that. It was similar to the Reddit blogs and the Reddit bloggers and the Channel Awesome apology and all that, which happened during production of the script for that one. So we had to change it to the ending, so they said, oh, they apologized. And they said, oh, it was for nothing. Yeah. So we still have this setup of this goofy planet thing, and it's much easier to just start it over and say, all right. That does not mean necessarily that we would make a storybook version of the second season scripts if they do follow the same information as the blog from the 3180s story or the 2560s ripoff of the 3180s, which is the Maelstrom one, which Mark's Cards is determined is not canon with Starcrackers, but we published it anyways. It's not canon with the Maelstrom story. It's just called that. That was mainly so we could keep the name Maelstrom. So it's sort of like it's not a tax write-off because it wasn't a tax write-off. It's more like, we want to keep the title in with us, so Maelstrom Saga. So yeah, that's what happened. So we had to do that. It ended up that the 2 or 3 characters that we introduced, including the Green Lizard Lady and the other ones, were never used in anything else. So, and not used that much in the story. It was mainly we took the commentary blogs, just the commentary, not the actual stories and articles, just the commentaries from many years of the discussing alien giants and stuff, and said like, oh, it'd be kind of fun if all over the internet, mainly the Colavitos, and said like, okay, let's make a story talking about the commentary of that, and that's what that last season kind of was with the Reddit stuff that we did for last season. This finale is the Meltdown blog, and this Ancient Aliens Giants discussion is the first one, and then the Meltdown blog. So it's a condensed version of the whole thing, but it's more modern than the other stuff, the stories. So if you're doing the second season, when you do the second season, we don't need a storybook adaptation of the second season unless it's radically different, which it could be radically different. And if it is, then yeah, sure, you could make a storybook out of it. But you don't really. It would be very similar, and it's best to be as simplistic with that as possible, script-like as possible, and say like, okay, well, you don't need a massive description of how things end up in that universe because you're starting from scratch and saying this is the same blog information, but it's earlier. It's when they told the bloggers what to blog, basically, with the thought makers. Yeah, that's it. They're using on the planet. But yeah, I don't want to make it too convoluted, and that does sound convoluted, and that would be like trying to like annoy the actual people that it's loosely based on. So we don't want to do that either. So. Yeah, it wouldn't be. That version wouldn't be printed. It would just be aired, kind of like we did with Transformers Mush. And all Transformers Mush, we kind of said, well, we're gonna, we're not gonna republish the Mush stories because we changed them significantly when we did them as episodes, to the point that that we almost like paraphrased and ad-libbed those episodes, but we paraphrased quite a lot. So if you saw the scripts, they wouldn't look like it's the same dialogue, but a lot of those stories wouldn't look that great. And the 2 or 3 ones that we did use, where we did verbatim, such as Corrosion, War Without End, they're already out there. That's where we got them, so they were already reprinted in a usable form as a screenplay, so as teleplays. So we didn't need to. We just read them. So yeah, that and Transitions and Redemption, they were all already out there, and they were modern. House of Paper Flowers was also. You do that one either. So a lot of those early trans stories, we didn't need to do anything with those. There's no point in reprinting them and posting them as blogs. So the next time they have the conventions, and now we're going to get demonetized for mentioning the word fisting, even though I'm not going to describe it. Anyway, it's not monetized anyway. This story, maybe the second season idea with the blogs is probably a bad idea, but for first season it's going to work. And if we use those other stories, it would be the beginning of the blogs, not the end. Although what's in here so far is well done. The trick with random blog things, if you do a blog story, so you got like a long page here. This whole page is probably just one guy talking, and you split it up into sentence here, 2 sentences here, sentence here, and then slightly give it a different feel each time. And yeah, that's how you do it. You turn the blog into dialogue from being normally it would be a monologue, but you're turning it into dialogue. You're making two people talking in a room and changing the names. And yeah. So anyway, so that's behind the scenes. So yeah, this season will be done before Thanksgiving. Well, I don't know if it'll be out before Thanksgiving. It will be done before Thanksgiving. So yeah, page 8 so far of Act 1 of a 49-page script. So pages away. Yeah, it's fine. It's yeah, this is funny. Good. Peanut temper. Peanut temper. Oh yes, and incidentally, Star Trek Prodigy is still going right now currently, and Red Letter Media was referenced directly in an episode of Lower Decks when they tore the hull off of the ship in the finale. They referenced him directly. Also, Theo's awesome reviews was referenced in a Transformers episode. But oddly enough, I think the Mush was, but not the because it was done a year before the All Transformers Mush. It was done a while back. It's not current. It's like they did it a year ago, so they'll be mentioning our stuff eventually. But and the it's the Bumblebee Cyberverse series. It's kind of the same universe as Mush. But no, we were more referenced to the Netflix show actually, quite a bit. Which was weird. Yeah. But yes. So, or at least versions of the Corrosion Award thing, which we didn't make. We just adapted it. That was Rob Powers. That was not us. The original story was Rob Powers. It's not us. We just adapted it for this screen. Okay. But yeah, and Transitions as well. And the other one. And Redemption. Numerous other ones. Paper Flowers. Actually, the guy that did Paper Flowers, T.L. Ahrens, he does have a blog site, but he set it up so that now that people can't actually download any of the stories. They can read them, they just can't download them. So, yeah. He was okay with Paper Flowers, the original, but not the revised version later on, because he's not that good. But, yeah. So, Paper Flowers. And yes, it was about him, like, being smitten for some girl that he didn't get. That's what it was about. Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, the UK comics are similar to this. But yeah, this Star Trek blog thing. We're not going to do probably any other Reddit stuff. That was a strange idea. Blog stuff. Yeah. But it is interesting and cerebral, and the other media guys like cerebral and talky stuff now for some reason. But yeah, so we're not doing it for them. We're just doing it. They had nothing to do with us. But someday we might have. Never know. That would be cool. The best of the worst or something. But we're not famous enough, so I don't think so. Yeah, the slash baby. I'm doing the slash. Yeah, I'll be able to say that. I'll be able to tell the slash lady. You see the slash fiction lady again, if it's here. I'll tell her that we put up the slash fiction stories at All Transformers Mush. We enacted them, voice acted them during the pandemic, and did a full-on season, and then another season after that, a half season and a half of that. It is slashy. It's still PG-13, but it's suggestive. It's slashy. As well as this is a little suggestive too. It's pretty harmless though. It's like, ooh, action figures are kissing. Ooh, it's harmless. Yeah. It's not for kids, but they're not going to be grossed out. I can't say too much bad about it, or they won't cast me to rewrite the next Star Wars. Well, they wouldn't anyway, but they might get desperate, though. like they did with Solo. They make it desperate. Or with the Rise of Skywalker. No, Abe, no, JJ, no. Don't put Palpatine. Oh, we want to put Palpatine in it and make her important. It's gonna ruin the whole thing. Don't do it. No Palpatine. Unless you make him a puppet, and at the end, the puppet is being controlled by Jar Jar Binks, who's a real Sith Lord. He's all, I'm not gonna do that. Why not? That'd be awesome. It would redeem the prequels. It'd be able to say like, oh, wow, that was really part of the whole thing. He was Darth Sidious the whole time. That would explain his amazing power. Pixar. The Pixar's different. Anyway, this is the longest diatribe that's going to be on here. Just keep going on about the mush. Yeah. So, according to the script book, this is the first act. We're at page 30, and they're a little long. So the chapters end at 32. It's the end of the act. We didn't quite get to the end of this act, but that's still really good progress. The other story is said to be directed by Cowpoke, or at least the story was written by Cowpoke. That's true. He wrote the second one, or helped write the second one, the one after this one. But we sort of switched off, and although Cowpoke didn't originally have the last two previously, we gave Cowpoke the last two previously, instead of Kelly taking on the second act of the last one. So basically said like, okay, Cowpoke gets both of them, Kelly helps. And I was going to reverse that here. Cowpoke helps, and Kelly does these last two. So anyway, so yeah, Sheldrake Principle, and the coming of Kal Kat and Cal Hazel. Not sure. Yeah, that's funny. They're in this. With the Cillian Pine Hillians up here. Yeah. The Holy Cat character is probably just not another one of him repeating himself. That'd be kind of funny, but we'll see what happens there. Maybe he will disguise himself as Data or something, so that he'll look different from the other ones, just to convey that something screwy is going on. Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But he can't be a Tom Paris figure, because that would be weird. He can't be Wesley. Well, he could be Wesley. That would tie into the other one, but that would be a little weird too. Yeah, yeah, and Crass wasn't originally supposed to be in this story, but she is. She's in the script, so I've sort of worked her into the. She's in the script. We just forgot that we would include her, so I included her in the background as she sort of walks up to them. Yeah, so she's in it. She's on the planet with them. She's in there. So yeah, she's infiltrated them toward the end of the first act here. Yeah, the second act is the first. Yeah. So there's 3 scenes. There's 3 acts in each play. So it's the end of the third act. Near the end of the third act, Crass arrives. Anyway, so that is the end for tonight on the set of the show, and tomorrow we'll finish those 3 pages easily. And yeah, other things, and John Knight, but I don't know if Mark's cards will be on film, and probably not. But here's the thing so far. Not much making of. Doesn't need to be. The story is quite clever. It's a drama with comedy jokes here and there. It's dark comedy at times, but it's a drama. Dramatic reading of a blog that's been altered. It also has nods to other blogs that are similar, although I don't think directly. In the case of some of them, the atheist blogs of the past that were noted and mentioned in past Kal Kat stories, because we're not atheists. Well, Mark's Cards is atheist, but there was this other person that was a blogger, that was Bionic Dance, that was a blogger up in Oregon that commented on stuff, she was semi-famous because she met other people I'd never met her. It was just like a subscriber person that I discovered many years ago. I don't know if we're still subscribed to that channel. Probably not. But it was many years ago in the early days of the YouTube channel. Yeah, and there was a this dialogue is similar to stuff she would have said. So that's why it's to mention it here in the making of, because I mentioned it behind the scenes there. Now, you don't need to have a behind the scenes at all because it's in there. But yeah, they're discussing philosophy and religion and stuff like that, and the nature of existence and different religious stories, mainly Judeo-Christian ones, and debunking them in the story, and sometimes not debunking them, sometimes giving their opinion, so to speak. Yeah, so. And that's very Star Trek. Like, they totally would have done that if they had a blog series that was about stuff and nature and existence. They would do that. Global warming is mentioned in there, and climate change, and and other things, and how agriculture started, and things like that. It's quite fascinating, the Call Vito blogs that it's loosely based on. Anyway, so yeah. And not all of it, but just one aspect of it, really. The giants and aliens, and that's pretty much it. And some of the other stuff, the Bible references. I'm assuming that Call Vito is Catholic, or at least partly Catholic, in the stories, judging by what he's said in the stories. Anyway, so yeah, and I don't know why he doesn't block the haters. To this day, there's still haters on that blog. Anyway, whatever. Incident at Ardani Part 1 is done. And in the can, work on Part 2 next week until the Thanksgiving and finish it before Thanksgiving. I don't know if we'll render all of it before then, but it'll be finished before then. But yes, it's fine. There are parts where the camera crashed into figures and fell over, but none of them were funny at all. It was not funny. It just wasn't. Yeah, so no bloopers, really. Yeah. We go on to Part 2. Part 2 was supposed to be, in the script at least, was Cowpoke helping out in the script. But I did the last part of the last one too in the script. So they kind of switched off, and it was like Cowpoke Kelly. And I decided to say, like, okay, no, Cowpoke did the last two, and Kelly will do these two. That makes sense. So yeah, the last two, and then, in terms of the directing. So the third act should be easy to edit because it's completely on a different set. So toward the end here, the last 5 pages were. Two or 3 pages were on this other set, so it should be fairly easy to find. And we're going to go on to film Part 2 and then put all the pieces together. So yeah, there's actually a lot less tape used, flash video used this time around, believe it or not. A lot less, because we would just shoot the 2 or 3 pages and stop rather than shooting little bits of pages here and there. Just go all the way to the end of the page and say stop. And the end of the page stop. We had one almost caught mistake where we began to read dialogue in the middle of a chapter that would have been missing some information about giant bones or something, and religion. We fixed that. So other than that, it should all be there. All the scenes should be there. Everything, each page there. And there's probably there's 49 pages in the first one and 49 in the second one, and it looks like it's actually that many gigs. There's like 60 gigs or something of data, and that's way better than 80 or 90 gigs of data. It means that we're actually keeping it down to a minimum of wasting film, believe it or not. And earlier there was some debate whether there would actually be a second season or not. But I think we are going to go ahead with the second season. It'll probably just be a miniseries like this one was. It won't be like the ambitious Transformers thing where they went on for second season of the All Transformers Mush was 11 episodes. The first season was 17 because of the 7-episode story arc, so it was different. But it would have been just like 12 or 13 episodes if you count it all together. But yeah, this is not going to do 17 episodes. I would guess there would be another 4 or 5 next, and then it would be done. We'll see what else comes after that. But yeah, but if you just want to take this one season as one season, that's fine. You can take this as one season, or you can take it on the whole as a 1 2-hour movie, and then an additional. There was sort of a pseudo 2-part standalone episodes, the station one, and then the Starship on the planet one, and then there was basically the Kirk's thing, Kirk's Gambit 1 and 2, Cowpoke, and then this one, Incident at Ardani. So there were technically 8 episodes altogether, but the first and second were counted together. The Triple Hunt was counted as one episode. This one clearly ends and starts up something else. But yeah, it seems that it ends with the lower deck stuff. Yeah, yeah, and they changed some stuff in season 2 that we knew stuff about, like, and the Redditors didn't. Like Shax was going to come back. Of course, he's going to come back. Some of the planet references, the Riker and the Titan, and the clone reference, and all that. Yeah, so we had some foreknowledge of that. We couldn't reveal until, of course, we let everyone watch season 2 to see, like, okay, yeah, they didn't make it like Silly Trek, to make sure that we didn't copy them and they didn't copy us. The same thing with Prodigy. Not as much with Discovery. They're doing their own thing in Canada, so they're doing their own thing. So they might accidentally cross paths with us. Like last season when they had Cal. Literally, Cal was a character. They didn't cast one of us. They got somebody else that looked like. It's a little odd to play him. And we also have SoCal, who is apparently the burn character, the space burn, the lithium burn character. Yeah, it's an alien. So, yes, and season 4 is another universe-threatening anomaly thing again. Because Silly Trek. Yes, it's just basically say, okay, if you treat Discovery as a very expensive Silly Trek Starship Locations, it makes more sense. If you just say, okay, this is a goofy Star Trek where Michael Burnham, this sort of rogue commander guy, eventually becomes a captain in the far-off distant future, sure, it's fine. Sure, why not? Several fringe characters, because they are fringe and crazy. So if you use any sort of stories from them, don't use their blogs. Use people discussing their blogs. You're probably fine. Because even the Grave Robber story was probably just some sycophant of that guy anyway. It wasn't really him. Because no, that he wouldn't be. Well, maybe he would be that crazy, but like he literally spent 2 weeks trying to convince them on the blog about the Grave Robber blog that he wasn't robbing graves or didn't want to rob a grave, and that he was being slandered and then libeled, even though he wasn't being slandered because it was written. And he wasn't being libeled either, really, because, and of course that's what internet trolls typically do. They'll say, we're going to sue you for libel. Ooh, we're going to get a lawyer. My opinion is better than yours. We're going to get a lawyer and sue you. And it's like, no, you're not, because you're probably in a basement somewhere. And you don't have a lawyer. You're just talking out of your head. They finished part 1, and or they'll get really bizarre. They'll in desperation they might call in a SWAT, which is dumb and dangerous, but he could get killed. Or they'll get really super desperate and start slandering the other person, saying they're a pedo or something. That person must be a pedo, like out of nowhere, like what? Which is technically libel against the other person. They could technically be sued, ironically, for their defamation. If anything, defamation would be what it was. Uh, but yeah, if they're public figures, they can't really be doing that. I always thought that the Colavito blogs that they're loosely based on just needed moderation. They just needed to go through there, and he could have. There were times when there was a diatribe that went on for days and days and days. These 2 or 3 different troll guys kept commenting and just having an argument on there all to themselves going on for days and days. And it's like, just delete it. Find that command thread and go, delete. Not going to let you entertain you. They can go to their own blog and start it, but then no one would care about them. They want to go on that blog to harass some guy in Ithaca, New York, for some reason. Anyway, so yeah. Next time. So this was part 2 of Incident at Ardani, and there wasn't much making of. A lot of characters fell over, and the camera ran into characters, but none of it's blooper material because it was rolling and it wasn't funny. We'd stop and do whatever. So no behind the scenes, no blooper material for the finale this season, and we made it sound like in the beginning of this whole thing it was definitely going to be a second season because they greenlit it. Well, you know how long a second season might take. If they do a second season, it's not contractile. It's what? Contractile negotiations. No, there's very little, yeah. So this does have a definitive ending. They do get off the planet. The 2 bad guys get transported to the realm. Well, they pretty much established that in the those 2 brief scenes that were just kind of made in the fly at the last minute that Koloth and Cyrano get returned to their time, or 2021, but that Q and then send them further on into the future to the year of the 2560s story and the 3190s story, and basically tell them that universe didn't exist because of what they did in 24/2. They've changed the reality of the timeline so that the other stuff doesn't happen in the same way that it happened in the books. Kind of retconning out as a separate timeline the events of the Fallen Ones and the Maelstrom Saga, saying that they didn't really necessarily happen. But they are storybooks, and you can read them online. That's fine if you want to on your Kindle. But yeah, they're not canon with Star Trek. If we did a second season and we used some elements from those 2 stories, that would have to be completely different. So it might as well be completely different. So at this point, I don't know whether they're going to do that or not, or whether they're going to do a second season or not. It's too early to say, oh, we greenlit a second season. So yeah, they got off the planet. Everybody's okay, and they banished the other 2 to the other side. And there's a cameo by appears to be Cal Hazel and his friend Amanda. It's supposed to be Amanda Rumbley at the end there, in the distant future, going because they're filming Star Trek Discovery season 4, 3 and 4, and 23 right now in 2021 and 2022. So there's and Starship Picard is 2400 or so. And that's right now. So these weird, super future timeline isn't really super future at all. And also, the cast of Lower Decks, it's tend to take place in 2380-81, but it's actually now 20 years later than that. And then you have Prodigy, where it's a little bit later than Lower Decks. It's 2383. So yeah, you have these other series that are taking place in this year, 2021. So it's the Cillian idea that there are different Star Treks going on at the same time as the regular one is in the DNA of the current Abrams Star Trek. Just thought I'd point that out. So, literally, it's right there. So, they're copying us. Again. Anyway, so, yeah, this is so that's... Will Riker, Tom Riker. Critical vitriol. Into Act 2. 3. Act 3. Yep. A little bit into Act 3. You are nothing but an occultist, crapist, and all this place is nothing but your deranged playground. You are nothing but an occultist. What are you doing?